Hello there, and welcome to my office. My name is Randy Wilt. I'm the Deputy Director of the University of Texas Project on Conflict Resolution here at the University of Texas at Austin. However, we just call it the UTPCR. I appreciate your time today because we're going to show you here in just a moment a brief, what we call a snippet informational video, which is going to be a sampling of what we do in our 3-hour conflict resolution and conflict management workshop. But before we go to that, let me tell you just a little bit about the UTPCR. We've been around for over 2 decades helping corporate people and campus services here at the University of Texas. We are made up of professionals who've been in the business world, academians, professors, but most of all, we are researchers. Now let me tell you why that is so very important. The University of Texas at Austin is a Tier 1 research institution. So we're constantly looking for up-to-date information on different things that affect you in the corporate world. Our job is to research interpersonal communications, conflict, and issues that relate to conflict. All that we bring to you in our workshop. Well, thank you again for joining us. And we're going to show you this little presentation. At the very end, you're going to see a couple slides. Those slides are going to tell you ways that you can be in contact with us, either by phone or by email. But most of all, I want to tell you is that we're here to work with you, to work with your people, your managers, your supervisors. If we need to just train trainers, we can do that too. All of that is part of our service. We're PhDs, we're masters. All of that comes to you with the strength of the University of Texas. So now sit back, relax, and please enjoy our presentation. It'd be nice if we didn't ever have to deal with conflict, but unfortunately conflict is something that comes into our life every day. It's going to be there no matter what. We're going to see conflict in our workplace. We're going to see conflict coming into our family. It could be our children, it could be our parents, it could be our spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend. It also pops into the person who's right next to us, in the cubicle next to us. It could be the co-worker who is in conflict with us. It's something as simple as perhaps where we're going to go to eat today for lunch. And it could be with a supervisor or it can be with a subordinate. But probably what I like to always talk about is the worst conflict of all is when it's with your customers or your vendors, because a relationship that you've worked on for months and years can just disintegrate just in a matter of moments because of conflict with that very, very valuable customer. One of the things we do at the UTPCR is we try to explain to people that conflict is inevitable. It's going to happen. The old days we said conflict was bad, but nowadays we realize that conflict is both good and bad. It has some positive attributes to it. For example, conflict has a tendency to bring people together. It gets them, instead of facing different direction, it gets them talking, gets them sharing with each other what's important. For example, it helps people to explain and clarify goals. Just like this little diagram shows here, it helps you to identify the goal, then to make the plan and see if it's actually going to work, and then take the action and move forward with it. So you see, conflict helps us to clear out that resentment. It helps people to understand each other and understand what's so important. But to understand conflict, you have to understand truly what the definition is. Now this sounds a little academic, but it is very true that conflict is an expressed struggle between at least 2 interdependent parties who perceives incompatible goals and interference from each other in achieving their goals. Now, to break that into little pieces, let's talk about first that conflict is an expressed struggle between at least 2 interdependent parties. That's not saying 2 dependent parties. It's talking about parties that are dependent upon each other. For example, you are dependent upon your customer. Your customer may be dependent upon you too. You want to charge one price for the goods, but they want to pay a different price. So you have 2 interdependent parties who are dependent upon each other. But you also have incompatible goals, because not only are you dependent, the customer wants to pay less, you want to charge more. So therefore, you have what's considered that interference, which means that they're blocking each other's goals. So that's where that conflict quite often surfaces, where one party is interfering with the other person's goal. So what do you do in that case? Well, one of the problems we have in conflict is that we encounter conflict because of multiple reasons: acceptance, recognition, position, power, meeting goals. But the one that we like to talk about the most in this workshop is about power and position, because we live in a world where power and position seems to be so important to people that they actually will make strides to show that they're in power, and that power quite often is what they use to try to get their way in a conflict. When you're looking at conflict, you have to do a few things, and this is something we train people in, is how to separate the people from the problem. For example, we're talking about the customer wanting to pay one price, you're trying to charge another. You eventually get to the point where you become unhappy with the customer, they become unhappy with you. That is now moving the conflict away from the problem, which is the price, over to the relationship, to the actual person. So we do a very, very good analysis of helping people to understand that it's not the people that you're in conflict with, it is a problem that you're in the conflict over. So we help people to invent options for mutual gains. In the old days, we called that win-win situation. That's an old term, but it still is a very good term, because you want to take it away from a win-lose over to a win-win where both parties walk away happy. Chances are 80%, 90% of the time, you're going to deal with that same person again. It doesn't matter if it's a car dealer or if it's a customer or whatever it is. Is it going to be your subordinate or your supervisor? You're going to have more discussions with them. So you want both parties to walk away with the mutual gains where they feel like they walked away from the table being successful. Next of all, you want to be able to recognize conflict styles. That is very important. Let me tell you why. Because you all have a conflict style. We all have got that. And there's 5 styles: competitive, accommodating, avoidant, compromising, collaborative. We all work within one, if not many, of those different styles. We have to understand the way we operate as a competitive person, or maybe an avoidant person. Once you understand your style, then we help you to understand the style of the person you are communicating with. So if you're communicating with a subordinate or a supervisor or a customer or a vendor or maybe just a co-worker, we give you the information to understand how to recognize their style and how they need to be communicated to. For example, someone who is a competitive person, they don't want to beat around the bush. They want to talk frankly, quickly, and to the point. Whereas an avoidant personality, if you do that to them, they're going to back off. They need to have a little bit more time, so you have to take it a little bit slower. The last thing it says here is you have to not only understand the different styles, but you also have to understand that those styles can complement each other, just like they can also pull relationships apart. This is what we teach. And we're glad to do this, and we like to come and talk to you and your people more and train your staff on conflict management and how we can make those win-lose situations into a win-win mutual gain situation by just simply understanding what conflict is about and understanding conflict management styles. Get in touch with us if you like. Our number is 512-471-1950. As you see here, our homepage is www.utpcr.org. And on that website, go to Business Services, and you will see right in the center a download to some of the different things we do, some of the different modules, from meeting management to conflict resolution to negotiation. All these things, leadership management, we can come and teach your folks. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you listening to this presentation. We look forward to hearing from you soon.